What's going on, family? This is Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. I want to talk about a dynamite lightweight out of New Rochelle, New York, by the name of Bruce Flowers. He was born January 10th, 1905, and stood 5'10" and 132 pounds, as high as 140 and a half pounds. He won 50 out of 54 amateur fights. And what's fascinating about him, if you want to compare him to a fighter of today, I would compare him to Paulie Malignaggi. Now, Paulie Malignaggi would win amateur fights, so would Bruce Flowers. But the difference between Paulie Malignaggi was his ability to earn a title shot. Bruce Flowers was never given that opportunity. Otherwise, he would have, in today's standards anyway, been unified lightweight champion, unified welterweight champion of the world. That would be no problem. He was just never given an opportunity. He was elected into the Westchester County Hall of Fame in 1967. Bruce Flowers would defeat such men as Lou Peluso, Jack Bernstein, Bobby Garcia, Spug Myers, all very good fighters, Sid Barbarian, Jimmy Goodwrench. Now, Jimmy Goodwrench would be lightweight champion of the world. He would face fighters such as Benny Leonard and Rocky Kansas, just to name a few. So Jimmy Goodwrench was a very, very good fighter and a very, very good champion. He's a Hall of Fame as well. Bruce Flowers would face Joe Chabon. He would face Ray Miller. Now, Ray Miller, I told you his story. He was a very good knockout artist out of Chicago, lightweight. But Ray Miller had a distinct story. He would face fighters such as Ruby Goldstein, the Nebraskan Wildcat Ace Huskins, welterweight champion Jimmy McLaurin. And Ray Miller was a very good referee as well. He was in there refereeing fights with Willie Pep and Sandy Sadler. And he was also refereeing a fight in 1952 when he had to take over a match for his old pal Ruby Goldstein. And that fight was Sugar Ray Robinson and Joey Maxim. So Ray Miller was a dynamite knockout artist, very good lightweight. Bruce Flowers would face King Tut, Sammy Vogel, Alex Hart, Tommy Grogrin, just to name a few of these fighters. 1924, he had 4 fights. And he would receive a 4-round victory over Lou Reno. He would face Mike Saragan twice, and he would defeat him both times in 4 rounds. He would face Augie Pizzana, lose to him in 6 rounds. Augie Pizzana again, lose to him in 6 rounds. But he would face Sammy Fuller. Now, Sammy Fuller was a very, very good fighter. Sammy Fuller would face a fighter by the name of Young Peter Jackson. Now, that fight would be on the undercard of Primo Carnera and Max Baer. And on that undercard, you had Corn Griffin and Jimmy Broderick. So Sammy Fuller was a dynamite fighter during those days. But one of the fighters that stands out to me the most, that was a Bruce Flowers opponent, was Billy Patron of Fargo Express. I just want to give you an example of the career of some of these fighters that Bruce Flowers fought. The Fargo Express, Billy Patron, these guys fought each other March 16th, 1928. But Billy Patron was born January 10th, 1905. He died May 14th, 1983. He stood 5'7" and weighed 144 pounds. Now, he fought fighters such as, and I'm talking about Billy Patron right now, Lewis Kid Kaplan, fascinating fighter. Red Cap Wilson, another dynamic fighter. 1927, August 2nd, Billy Patron would fight a fighter by the name of King Tut. This fight would take place in St. Paul, and he would win on the foul in 4 rounds. He would fight King Tut again, August 15th in St. Paul, and knock him out in 6 rounds. 1928, January 13th, he would face Sammy Mendel. Sammy Mendel would be lightweight champion of the world. He fought him in Minnesota and had a 10-round no decision with him. He would fight a fighter by the name of Jackie Kid Bird. Fought him twice, July 26th and August 24th. Both times in Chicago. That's Ray Miller's hometown. And July 26th, he would have a no decision in 10 rounds with him. And August 24th, he would have a technical knockout in 5 rounds with Jackie Kid Bird. Now, Jackie Kid Bird was a legendary fighter. So it shows the quality of a fighter Billy Patrol was. Billy Patrol would fight King Tut again on October 6th of that same year, 1928. Fought him in Minnesota and have a 10-round no decision with him. Billy Patrol would also fight Jimmy Goodwrench. Jimmy Goodwrench was a champion. He would fight Battling Ballino, another champion. Tony Canzaneri lost to him in 15 rounds. Bonnie Ross lost to him in 10 rounds. Just give you an example of the quality opponents that Billy Patrol fought. Bruce Flowers would also fight Johnny Jadek, dynamic, junior lightweight. And he was born June 16th, 1908, died April 3rd, 1970 in Philadelphia. He stood 5'8.5" and weighed anywhere between 127 and 146 pounds. Now, Johnny Jadek would face Hall of Fame fighters such as Tony Canzaneri, Frizzy Zivik, Dick Honeyboy, Pete Nebo, just to name a few. So I just wanted to give you a perspective of some of the opponents that Bruce Flowers fought. Let me tell you, Bruce Flowers was a dynamite fighter. I talked about him before, but he's just so unappreciated. I had to bring you a little bit more of a perspective on him again. So salute to Bruce Flowers. Salute to all of these outstanding fighters in the 1920s. This is Scrapbook Boxing. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining the Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. Salute to all my subscribers. Salute to Bruce Flowers. All great fighters will never be forgotten on my channel. Peace. I just want to give a shout out to a brother that's been putting in a lot of good work, good information on a murderous row. And that's the legendary Top Cat. Salute to my brother. Outstanding work. Very proud of him. Very accurate on his stories of them. And I want him to keep up the work because that's a great job he's doing. But in Ringside Historians, we're going to be covering the second group of Murderous Row. And that is Bruce Flowers and Jack McVeigh and Jack Warren and Obie Walker and Cecil Husson, just to name a few. So we'll be covering those fighters as well. And we'll be covering the first group of Murderous Rows, which is obviously Sam Langford and Joe Janek and Harry Wills, just to name a few. Sam McVeigh, excuse me. So look out for that as well. And I also want to give a shout out, of course, to Curtis Anderson and the brother Retro Boxing and Documentaries. We'll be working well together on these projects. Just make sure you give us full support. Salute.